Now let's style this page. And let's start with the manual styling. We can add style to the Vue files, just like having this template script, and we can have style elements in these files. And let's start with this app Vue file. So adding style right here. And let's start with a scenario like this. Let's say we have an style for H1. So all H1s will have, let's say, their color will be red. And let's have a H1 right here below the sign up element H1 and closing the tag. And let's say this is H1 in app. So if we say this one, here we have H1 in app, and we also have another H1 right here in the sign up page, which is also child element of this app. And that H1 is also having this style. So both of these H1s are in red. So the style we define right here in this app component is affecting the other component. Now let's add similar style to sign up page. So just collapsing this script and pasting here. And let's say this one is going to have the H1 as blue. So we have conflicting selector. In app we have H1, and also in sign up page we have this H1. And let's see what's going to happen. So this one is overriding the previous one. So the style we applied right here is updating the H1 in sign up, but also it is updating the H1 in app. So if we are having same selector in different components, the final result might be hard to guess. For such case, Vue has functionality to define the styles scoped to the element. So we can do something like this. Here in sign up, we can set the style attribute, and the attribute is scoped. So saving this one. Now in sign up page, the header is in blue, and since this is scoped to the current element, it is not leaking out. Therefore in app, the style for H1 is still red. Now let's remove this style from sign up page and let's update the app. Let's make sure this style is scoped. So we have this style in app and it is scoped to the app, and saving like this. So here we can see only the H1 in app is visible in red, and the H1 in sign up is not having any style applied to it. So if we inspect these elements, here this one is the H1 in app, and here we have this custom attribute, and here based on this custom attribute the color is set as red for this element. But for the other one, for the one in the sign up page, we don't have any attribute for that one. So the Vue is basically creating custom dynamic attributes for the elements and scopes that styles to exactly same elements like this. So this was just to demonstrate this scoped style behavior. Later we will practice styles a bit more, but for now let's apply Bootstrap Styles and remove this H1, and let's also remove the style and the header. Now we are going to apply Bootstrap Styles. Here in Bootstrap, currently it has this version 5, and we can go with that one or we can go with the older versions. So let's go with this version, and basically we are going to copy this CSS link and we will be pasting this link to this index.html. So just pasting to this one, and let's save it. So the styles of the header or the labels are changed. Now we are going to use Bootstrap Styles to shape our page, and let's start with the container component. So let's wrap whole app with a div, and all our components will be inserted into this div, and this div will have the class of container. Saving this one. This is adding space to the left and the right of the content, and basically it is putting the content into the center of the page. And we are going to change the form style, and we can go with the Bootstraps Forms, and right here we have this sample, and the style of that one is something like this. The label has this class of form label, and this is for password, and the input has this class form control. So just copying this one for label and coming to the sign up page, and let's go with the first element, first input. So for label of username, pasting this one, and for the input, just copying this one, form control, and pasting it to the input of username, saving this one. And here we can see this username is visible like this. The label is on top of the input, and if I click to the input here, it is having a focus indicator around it. So we can repeat the same styles for others. So just copying this form label and selecting these labels by holding Alt key in Windows and clicking left clicking to the points right here, and now I can update each these lines, just pasting the class form label and doing the same thing for the inputs. Copied the class form control and holding Alt, clicking this one, and this last input. Saving this one. Now the layout is looking like this. Now let's also style this button. It is not really visible at this point. Let's go with the Bootstrap Styles again. Right here we have this submit button, and it has this classes, but btn and the btn primary. So just pasting it right here. So the button is styled, but since this is disabled, the Bootstrap has disabled color for this one. The color is fade out a bit. It's not exactly the same color we are seeing right here. This one is enabled, and we have this disabled version. So whenever we fill the form, the button is enabled and the color is the exact primary color. Let's also move this sign up header and the sign up button to the center of this layout, and we can do it like this. For h1 we can set the class text center, and for button we need to wrap this one with a div, because this button is not filling all this row, it is just filling this space. To make this one in center, we have to use an element which is filling that row, and div can be used for this one, and we can set the class text center for this div and closing this div tag after the button is closed. Now the header and the button are in center. And currently the elements are very close to each other, and there is no spacing between this last input and the button. And again, we can check the documentation right here. Here we can see this this one is wrapped with a div. So we have this label, we have this input, and we have this text right here. But also they are wrapped with this one, and it has this class. And this is a utility class for margin. And this one is basically saying the add margin to bottom. B stands for the bottom, and the 3 is the relative measurement. And let's do the same thing. So just wrapping this one with MB3, closing this one, and repeating same thing for others. Doing the same thing for password and password repeat. Saving it. And we have a bit more spacing between these elements. Let's also wrap all this form in a card, and again we can check the card in Bootstrap. So the card is basically a layout like this. The root element has the style of card, and there is card body, and also there is card header, card footer. Card has different sections, and we can just check these documents and go into the details. You can just check these documents to see more use cases for that one. So basically in this one we will do like this. The root element is this form, and we can go with this one and set the class as card. And let's also add a spacing between this form and the top of this page. So we can again go with this utility classes like this one. This time we are going to add margin to top, and let's go with 5. So if I save this, here there's a spacing between the card and the top of the page, and there is this border around our form. So this is the card style. Now let's apply the other card styles, and let's make sure this sign up is in card header. So adding a new div, and it is card header, and closing this div and moving this h1 into this div. Now the header is looking like this. And let's also wrap all these form elements, the inputs and the button, with another div, and this is going to be card body. So just selecting these lines and moving into this card body. In Windows, again holding Alt key and hitting up arrow. Saving this. Now the form is looking like this. Let's do one more change here. If I change the size of this window, here we can see the form is filling all the page. But instead of filling all the page, let's keep the form in the center of this page and add spacing around it. And we can do it like this. This time we are going to use Bootstrap's layout grid classes. Here we can see the classes we are going to use for the layout. The Bootstrap is basically splitting the page into 12 columns, and here with the column classes we can define how wide, how much column we are looking for the specific elements. And right here in the sample, this row, this part is splitted into 2 columns, and one of them is taking 8 column space and the other one is taking 4 column space. And we do that by just using this col-8 col-4. If we don't add anything to it, that row is evenly split to the columns that row has. And we can also use the screen size indicators like this one. So in small screen, this is going to be taking 8 column and this is going to be taking 4 column. And there are use cases like this. So this is, for instance, is taking 6 columns, but if the screen size is medium, then it's going to take 4 columns. And for our case, we will do something like this. We are going to wrap this form with another div. And in this div, we are going to set the column of 6 and offset of 3. So the offset is defining the position where the column is going to start. This is going to be adding 3 column space, then our column, this one, will fill the screen. And let's move this form into this div, again holding Alt key and moving this one to up by clicking up arrow, saving this one. Now the page is looking like this. If we change the size, the layout is looking like this. And if we inspect this one and just changing the size like this to make it a bit more visible. So in this container we have this col6 having offset 3, and the orange part are showing the spacing. That is the offset, and that's how we are moving the content from left hand side to the center. Since there is 12 columns, that's how we are centering the content into this page. But obviously this is not looking very nice when we are changing the size of this page. So let's mix things with the screen resolutions, and we can go like this. Let's say for the large screen, we will have 6 columns and we offset LG large 3. But if we are in the medium size resolution, then let's go with something like this, col-MD. This time let's take the 8 column space and let's add just 2 columns around this content, saving this one. Now this is filling this layout, but if we increase the screen size, here we can see form is having the spacing around it. So this style is fine, and this was just a simple usage of the Bootstrap. We are not going to go into the details of the Bootstrap in this course, but we will be using the Bootstrap styles in the next parts whenever we need to update the style of our components.